FPS games are a hard industry to break into. Its competition is fierce, with many players only sticking to the top dogs like COD and other industry behemoths. Everyone wants to be the next COD, Battlefield, or Fortnite, but only 1 out of every 100 end up being that. And even if you break through to becoming a game people love, many acclaimed games often fall to the wayside for the flashy new thing. I love exploring and checking out those other 99 out of 100. I found some awesome and hidden gems by doing so. So, let's take a look at 10 of these FPS games lost to time and see if they're still alive and are worth checking out. Let's get into it. The first game we have up is Team Fortress Classic. TF2 is one of the most acclaimed FPS games of all time, with cultural relevance still to this day. That's why I've always been confused on why its predecessor is rarely ever talked about outside of references to it in TF2. This is seen through the Steam numbers, with it hovering around the 100 players range at its peak. This is pretty low, but it's honestly really impressive considering the game came out in 1999, which is older than me and probably most of the people watching this video. How is the gameplay then? The first thing that's apparent for me at least is that the gameplay feels closer to Half-Life 1 than to Team Fortress 2. I'm not really surprised by this because it quite literally was a mod for Half-Life, but I still find it interesting how much TF2 changed compared to this game. The one thing similar to TF2 is how this game is hard to get good at. Maybe I'm just bad, but throughout the 2 hours of me playing the game, I barely did that well. This could also be due to the player base being very loyal and dedicated, so most of the people still playing probably know the game like the back of their hand. I basically only stuck to like Soldier or Heavy and hope for the best. The general gameplay philosophy is the same though, with 9 different classes each with their own gameplay and role on the team. The gunplay and movement is classic Gold Source, so you know it's going to be great in that department. The main mode you're going to be playing is Capture the Flag, which is pretty self-explanatory. I will also appreciate some of the creative design for the maps. 2 of the memorable ones I played on was one that was a 2-fort-like map that had a giant pit of radioactive water in the middle, and another that was mostly underground with a minecart ride connecting the 2 bases. Despite the game being older than Dirt, it was still a decent time, even if it ultimately isn't a game for me. I appreciate that it's still kicking and has a small but dedicated player base, and if you have any interest in seeing where the Team Fortress franchise started, go check it out. You also probably already have it in your Steam library, so no excuse not to. For the next game, we're sticking with the Valve theming, even if this game isn't made by them. Counter-Strike Nexon. If you played CS 1.6 any time in the past few years, you've probably seen how the game is very much not a vanilla experience anymore and can be very weird sometimes. Imagine that weirdness multiplied by 100, and then you have Counter-Strike Nexon Zombies. Counter-Strike Nexon Studio. Counter-Strike Nexon. It's confusing. This game is the Western version of a game developed in South Korea by the aptly named Nexon Studios, Counter-Strike Online. This game feels like it is the base of 1.6, but expanded out into this hodgepodge of everything that can possibly be put in the game. Zombie escape where I have no idea what's happening? Got it. More traditional infected? Got that too. Want something closer than normal Counter-Strike? That's here. Hell, they even got some weird PvE zombies thing as well. That sounds great. Who wouldn't want more content? But despite the CS gameplay and unique game modes, this game didn't really click with me personally. It's mainly the packaging that makes it not really palatable for me. Like a lot of Eastern free-to-play FPSs, there's so much pay to win, and the UI design is dated, to say the least. It has so much random stuff that it feels like it has no identity to it at all. You could tell me this game is a version of Crossfire and I'd believe you. Despite me not really clicking with the game, it still surprisingly has a decent player base of around 300 to 400 players. It may not be for me, but I'm glad it's still around and doing alright enough. Now on to the next game, Planetside 2. This is one of the first games I ever played on PC, and for good reason. Imagine a sci-fi far future Battlefield game and all the chaos with that, but on a map miles and miles long as you fight an hours-long war to control the whole continent, fighting for 3 different factions. There's also MMO-like progression for your characters with tons of things to unlock and customize multiple different classes with. It really is one of the most unique games I've ever played, and there's nothing else like it. However, how is the game right now? Player-wise, it ebbs and flows between the lows of 300 players and the highs of 800 players. For other games, that would be enough for a lot of different matches going on, but for Planetside, while it still is enough, the huge scale of the battles leads to this being enough for 1 to 2 matches being played. From a gameplay perspective, despite it being slightly less popping than it used to be and me being completely out of the game for years at this point, it still really has that magic the game had years ago. You can simply hop into a battle zone, go throw yourself at the enemies for a good while, and really contribute to a major battle for the whole faction. Despite the huge scale of the game, you can still easily hop in and experience the small scale battles, even if after they happen, you might need to take a long walk or a drive to the next one. The gunplay and movement, while not the best, does the job for the game it's trying to be. And the continents you play are varied enough in each area to provide different fights even if on the same map. Out of any game in this video, I'd recommend this game maybe the most. It's free, easy to hop in, and waste a few hours messing around, and participating in what I'd say is gaming's closest equivalent to real large-scale warfare. The next game is BlackShot Mercenary Warfare FPS. I'm just going to be upfront with this one. This game is not the greatest. It is one of those dated free-to-play FPSs that is very much taking inspiration from Counter-Strike, while implementing horrible menu design and pay-to-win mechanics. I really don't have much to say about this one because from just watching a tiny bit of gameplay here, you get the gist of the game. It's a pretty generic hipfire FPS where you go around in forgettable maps, killing people who've probably been playing for 10 years longer than you. I forgot it as soon as I closed the game, and it seems like most other people did too, since the game is hovering around 24 people max during peak hours. Maybe I'm missing something here, but I just don't like this one. Now we have a classic game, Medal of Honor Allied Assault. Before COD was known as the most popular FPS game in the world, the game that it was competing with was Medal of Honor. Allied Assault is probably the most well-acclaimed one in the series, but most people know it for its campaign. Despite the game coming out in 2002, and the developer team making it literally named 2015 funny enough, the game has online multiplayer, and it's still doing surprisingly well. You have to do some tinkering with it after you get the game from GOG to get everything set up right, since it is a game from 20 years ago, but once you do, it surprisingly has a decent player base still playing the game. If I had to guess, it's a little under 100 players give or take, but that's more than enough to have a few games. As for the gameplay, it very much is an old school FPS and plays like one with pretty basic maps, hipfire gunplay that's tight, and me getting my ass kicked. While it definitely did show its age, the game was ultimately still pretty fun. Especially towards the end of my session, it was fun to go around and slay in a free-for-all match with the STG and just chill. The game really feels like it has the chillness and community that FPS games had in their infancy, which is really nice. For some reason in one of my matches though, I literally encountered a creepypasta for some reason though. Wish you're a dog. What the heck is that? What the heck is that? Why is there a zombie? So why does my M1 Garand have 500 bullets? What is going on? I am like fearing for my life right now. I feel like I'm in a creepypasta. I guess we'll go see what this guy is. I'm scared to look, but this was just supposed to be free for all. Okay, well that's just a normal dude. Okay, I swear I'm not crazy. It's all like a giant Frankenstein monster walking around. Ultimately though, this game is a lot more active and fun than I expected for a game at this age. If you have the game or have a few bucks to spare and want to give it a shot, I happily recommend it. Before we get on with the next game, we're at the halfway point of the video, which probably means you're enjoying it. So if you could give me a like and a sub, it would be much appreciated. These are my favorite kinds of videos to make, so if you guys want to keep seeing them, this is the best way to show it. To continue with World War II FPS games, we have Day of Infamy. This game was a project by New World Interactive, best known for their work on the Insurgency series. And yeah, the game is basically Insurgency World War II, but that isn't a bad thing at all. The series has really tight gunplay and a really solid gameplay loop, so translating it to a different time period is easy and works well. I played this game a little bit years ago when it went on sale, and it was a blast. However, while that gameplay still holds up now, it's mostly a wasteland when it comes to players, with it usually ranging between 20 to 30 players. The PvP in this game, which I really enjoyed, is basically completely dead, with maybe getting a single match during peak hours. The PvE, where it's basically just a team of real players versus a much larger team of bots, is where most of the player base tends to rally. While I like PvP more, the PvE experience is still fun because the gameplay and gunplay itself is so good. Most people like Insurgency PvE too, so if you like that, it's basically the same here. I haven't been able to play this game too much in years, but every time I have, it's been a fun experience. I recommend picking this game up if it goes on sale because outside of games like Hell Let Loose, there isn't another tactical World War II shooter that holds up this well. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum, we have Warmode. This game is very weird. Despite it coming out in 2019, it has the look and feel of a browser FPS that came out in the early 2010s. The gunplay and graphics are mediocre, if not bad, and it also has the Counter-Strike buying system for some reason too. I wish I could say more about this game, but it really is just kind of very generic and boring and jank. It is free though, so normally I would say that you can just try it for yourself, but this game usually has peak player counts you can count on one hand. I think the game itself is more interesting for what it represents. There are so many games like this left on Steam with little to no players, and while other FPSs have cult fan bases with fond remembrances for the things they did uniquely, games like these will just be left here to rot. At least you can still play it. That's more than you can say for a lot of games, unfortunately. The next game is probably much higher budget, Caliber. Technically this is a third-person shooter, but it's close enough, and this is my video. This game is a semi-realistic, class-based third-person shooter. It's 4v4, and death isn't an instant respawn most times, so you're gonna have to work with your team not only to survive, but also to use all your operator abilities wisely. I'm not usually the best at these third-person FPS games, so I didn't do very well. You know what's bad when my best point of comparison on how this game feels based on things I've already played is probably The Division's Dark Zone. This game is solid though. While it doesn't do anything outstanding, it basically checks all the boxes you'd want to see in a free-to-play FPS. It doesn't seem really pay to win at all. It has enough content, a decent player base, and a solid gameplay loop. I think this game is interesting in what it represents as well. It's very much one of those games people would look at you and say, yeah, that's a dead game. When in reality, it's doing pretty solid and has a consistent, sizable player base. It sometimes peaks at over 1,000 players. It may be forgotten in the cultural zeitgeist or even the FPS community, but it's still doing good enough for itself, and that's something to be celebrated. Back to the World War II games, let's take a look at Battalion Legacy. This is a free-to-play game that got made out of an older game named Battalion 1944. The game they made was a mix of old-school FPSs like Medal of Honor with some of the gameplay systems of games like Counter-Strike. However, this game was a Kickstarter game, so after years of broken promises and rocky development, the game went free and the developers abandoned it. So how is it now? A complete wasteland. It struggles to hit double-digit peak players most days. The gameplay and gunplay is solid all around, and the game is pretty fun, but it feels like a shell of what it was. The defusal gameplay is still there, but the buy system has been reduced to basically being a loadout system, and most matches are going to be mostly bots. It is a shame because there's genuinely a solid game here that I think people would find interesting, but it got completely gimped. It is free, so it's easy to try if you like these type of games, but it really is the epitome of forgotten and left to rot. For the final game of the video, we have Beyond the Wire. This game was the third large-scale tactical FPS from the people behind Postscriptum and Squad, but this time taking place in World War I. With games like Battlefield 1, there definitely is a hole in that market for World War I FPS games. However, this game didn't fit that hole at all. Within its early access period, it struggled to gain much hype at all. Free weekends didn't stick, the humble choice I got it from ended up not changing player numbers that much, and even the release only brought a small player bump until a quick drop off where you couldn't even fill a full lobby, and then not even a full team, and then months after that, not even play a proper game. Now, it's a complete wasteland. It's a miracle if you see double-digit players playing the game, and when I played, the game was completely empty. I can't even comment on the gunplay or gameplay much because there was no one to even test it on. This game is at the end because it really is the lowest you can go as a forgotten FPS. Millions of dollars spent on a high quality game just for the average person to download it and be presented with this hollow, empty wasteland. There isn't a huge war or gunfights going on anymore. Just empty servers and empty silence. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you're on mobile, hit the hype thing because it helps more than almost anything else. Have you played any of these games? If you did, I'd love to hear your thoughts on them and your experiences in the comments. A special thanks to Master Necro, Nico, Max, Asinotis, and A19 for supporting me on Patreon and YouTube memberships. Links below that and my Discord if you want to be extra special and help me out even more for just $1 a month. My name is Chaos for Real, and the real forgotten FPS is I don't know, I forgot.